Can I take my glasses off for the...
No, I wouldn't.
No?
I wouldn't.
Okay. Yeah?
Keep them
Leave them on?
Keep them on.
Okay. Everyone set?
Where's Jenny? Hang on.
Oh, we need the mayor.
Get the mayor. Let a big help,
Well, good morning, Townsville. It's always fantastic to be here, although I usually come up in the winter to escape the cold, and it's really, really cold today. I don't know what I did wrong to not get the warm weather I'd hoped for. That could be it, actually.
Chilly welcome.
But even in the cold, it's a really important day for the city, and the Palaszczuk government is really proud to stand here side by side with the Townsville City Council Mayor to announce the funding for the next stage, stage 2 of the Haughton Pipeline, $51 million committed. We often take for granted having safe drinking water, but when it runs out, we really notice it, and initiatives like this one are really important because they provide water security to our growing regions. With the Haughton Pipeline, we'll be able to take water from the Burdekin and bring it into the Ross River Dam, allowing for the moderation of water levels there, providing that really important water security to the city, to industrial customers here in the city, creating jobs and protecting jobs, including at companies like Iplex Australia, who won the tender for the 24 kilometres of 1.8 metre pipe that we will use in stage 2. You've seen just now what that pipe looks like, and we need a lot of it. Of course, as I mentioned, it's great to be here with the Mayor and our local MPs, and so we'll hear from them.
Thank you, everyone. This is an important day today. The $51 million committed for the 24 kilometres of GRP, that will help us pick up the water from the Clare Weir on the Burdekin Dam and deliver it into the Ross River Dam. Now, why that's important is we want to ensure that we have good raw water coming into our dam. The Haughton Channel couldn't do that. It couldn't deliver the volumes we needed into the future, which is why we worked with the state government to get this commitment for funding. This is part of a $195 million package committed by the state government to our water security. And we need that security if we're going to grow Townsville into the 21st and 22nd century. This provision of the funding will mean that, as I said, we will work now with some water. We will be developing sediment basins. We will be getting pumps ready to pump that water out of the Clare Weir into the sediment basin and then pumping it from there into Ross River Dam. Stage 2 is an important part of that. It will carry 24 kilometres of GRP and about 4 kilometres of cement line mild steel to get the water connected to stage 1 and then all the way to the Ross River Dam. And I might remind people that this will be the longest pressurised pipe in the Southern Hemisphere. It's an incredible project, it really is, and one that both the state government and the people of Townsville should be proud of. So thank you, everyone.
It's great to have the Deputy Premier back in town, particularly after the Cowboys-Broncos game, knowing that he was a Broncos supporter, and despite that, we welcome him. Well, we do welcome him back to. We do welcome him back to Townsville, to Cowboys country. But what a great announcement this is today, because we know how important water security is for us here in Townsville. In fact, when we signed the very first city deals anywhere in Australia, the Townsville City deals said water was the #1 priority, the #1 infrastructure bill that needed to happen to make sure that we grow the city. So the existing water pipeline was only servicing around 80,000 people. We knew Townsville had grown to over 200,000 people and projected to grow to 300,000 people in the next 20 years or so. So we knew we needed to do something. So we teamed up with Townsville City Council and the federal government to make sure with that city deal that we could deliver what Townsville needed now and into the future. So the state government kicked in for the first round, $225 million, and we got stage 1 completed with that huge pipe that you see behind us. We knew also, with the council telling us, that if we did stage 2 at the same time, we would then be able to make sure we could save money, but also extend that pipeline where needed. So we relied on the federal government to kick up their share. Through trickery, that didn't happen. So the state government has now had to step in and now fund stage 2 with the Townsville City Council. This is about ensuring that water security for the residents, but it's also about securing water for industry and for manufacturing, because we know that we are the capital of North Australia. We will continue to make sure that pit to port, from our mines to our port here, will allow and cater for that manufacturing opportunities, because we have secure long-term water both during times of rain but also during those times of drought. This is where we have the two levels of government, the state and local government, working together to deliver these outcomes.
I just want to congratulate IPLEX for winning the tender. It's more jobs in our local community, 30 more jobs right here at the Bowley. This is an exciting second stage for IPLEX. It's a challenging stage for the council. It's a greenfield site as opposed to stage 1 of the pipeline, which followed the old pipeline. So wishing the team all the very best in delivering this, because it does provide water security for our city for the future. There's more to come in terms of pipelines. We know Lansdowne will connect directly to the water pipeline as well. So, and of course the pipeline off Riverway Drive. So it's all about water pipelines today. So we're very much looking forward to making sure that Townsville has the capacity to attract industry when government invests. Now just think about this. It's $410 million just for stage 1 and stage 2 of the water pipeline that the Palaszczuk government has invested into North Queensland.
Thank you. What's exciting about this project, and I was just talking to the team from IPLEX, this is an Australian-made product, and there'll be 4 shiploads of this pipe being delivered through our port. So more jobs through the port, a big investment in water security, and also a big investment in industry moving forward in the eco-industrial park at Lansdowne. So this is investment of a big nature, a big investment by the Queensland State Government, the Palaszczuk Labor Government, and not only that, it gives us another level of confidence for this region, for those that wish to invest in heavy industry and in our new industries, our green economy, and that is the hydrogen future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming along today, Deputy Premier, the Mayor, Councillor Hill, and state and federal government representatives. On behalf of IPLEX, we welcome everyone. We're very excited again to be part of stage 2. We played a role and partnered with the Townsville City Council in stage 1. IPLEX is actually a large employer across Queensland. We operate a factory and distribution site in the northern suburbs of Brisbane in Strathpine, obviously the site here today in Townsville, and we also operate a foundry in Innisfail, which is halfway between Townsville and Cairns. So around 248 employees across the state committed to working on really important critical infrastructure projects, and we're proud to be part of this project again. In terms of jobs, it was mentioned, this project involvement will create about 30 jobs locally, which is important. It's also important that it's not just about business for us, it's the broader impact on the local community. So last time in stage 1 of the project, we contributed about $2.3 million of spend to local businesses as part of setting up and working through the project. Another $2 million additional was spent through our subcontractor partners with local businesses around the Townsville area. And so in addition to the positive economic impact and the jobs that are created, we're really pleased again to embark on this critical water infrastructure project. As was mentioned, the Townsville city is growing to around about 280,000 or 300,000 people over the next 20 years, so it's so important that the right infrastructure is in place to support that growth, and we're really pleased to be part of it. So thank you, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Well done. Well done, mate.
Thank you.
Good work.
So I'll have to take questions on this first, then move on.
Any questions?
Yes, please.
Two.
Okay.
Up to the point.
Batter up.
Swing batter.
24 kilometres, whereabouts are we going?
So we're taking it from stage 1 near the Haughton crossing, a bit further down, all the way down to Clare Weir. Now, it's unlike the previous stage one, which was already in a easement which council had access to. We've literally had to create a new easement to be able to get the pipe down to the Clare Weir.
And we've got the tender award when we expect to start work.
Well, we've already started work. I mean, we've been doing all the surveys, speaking to all the landowners, getting the corridors, having the cultural surveys done and the environmental surveys done. And I've just got to check, have we gotten through all our EPBCs yet? Okay, so at the moment the stalling point isn't the state government. We need to work through the federal government to get our EPBC approvals, and I think that's the last phase of all of this before we can start putting a shovel in the ground.
Practically, how long do you think that's going to take? Will it be ready by the time all this pipe is going to be?
Oh yeah, look, it will be. We'll be constructing as soon as we get through all our approvals and everything. But the reality is it's timed, everything's timed. It's timed to be completed towards the end of 2024, but we'll have to test it and won't be functioning till about 2025, early 2025. So even though we'll have everything in the ground, everything built, there's a significant amount of testing that needs to be done before commissioning.
We know earlier this year there was some concerns about capability issues with contractors expressed by council. Is that been all resolved?
There's a lot of work out there, and getting contractors hasn't been easy, but we've been able to resolve that for this project. But it is an issue, and with the amount of work that's occurring over the next 10 years, especially leading into the Olympics, it's an issue for all local government.
I guess, Jenny, how much water are we talking about?
236 megalitres, I believe, a day. That's about right. And we've still got access to the original Haughton Pipeline, the one that runs to the channel, which can also deliver up to 110 megalitres. So we're maintaining that one as well.
Infrastructure Australia has previously said the project isn't really worth the money it takes to build it. What do you make of it?
Infrastructure Australia said the port bypass road wouldn't work either, and you look at it today, it's one of the big reasons why the Townsville port can continue to grow, unlike other ports around the east coast. I'd say to Infrastructure Australia, you need to change how you measure things because it doesn't suit North Queensland. If you build it, they will come. Oh, look, you know, they campaigned in the previous election around that they were going to support these projects, and it actually threw us back 18 months, nearly 2 years, with all the backwards and forwards squabbling that we had with the federal government and the local member. Look, I want to thank the state government for coming on board, and you're right, there's over 400 million that they've invested, probably closer to 450 million they've invested in our water security, and that means that we can talk to industries about doing things like green hydrogen. So it really puts us in a great we're in a great position towards the changing economies of the world, and having Townsville City be a part of that.
This scuffle with the federal government is a big reason why this pipeline is now going to be set for completion in 2025. How concerned are you that the levels at the Ross River Dam are actually going to maybe fall below 20 or even 50?
Oh, look, at the moment, I haven't got a crystal ball to see what's going to happen in 18 months, but at the moment the dam's pretty close to 90%, and it's July. I think we're in a pretty good position to be able to, even with a poor wet season, to be able to get into commissioning of the pipe well before we have any concerns about significant water restrictions.
Is there any talk about what the federal government will do with the money that they previously allocated for this project?
So that money's still in the city deal, and we're in discussions with the federal government about what we'll do with that money. This current federal government is far more open than the previous one was, and I look forward to having discussions with the Minister and with the Deputy Premier at the table to get that money delivered for Townsville for other projects.
Is that everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy to take questions on other topics also.
I guess just on this one first.
Sure.
How critical is this, I guess, for the north, but also for region of Queensland in terms of these Harper projects and infrastructure?
Oh, look, it's one of the biggest. You've heard from the Mayor that this will be the biggest pressurised pipeline in the Southern Hemisphere. It's a massive undertaking, but it underlines just how important regional cities are to Queensland, and they drive our economy, and we need to make sure that they have the infrastructure that they need to continue driving our economy as they grow, and water is one of those critical enablers. You can't bring more people in if you don't have water. Industry uses water, and so to attract those industries, you need to be able to provide them with water. As I said before, it's one of the things you often take for granted, but actually it's really, really important. And so investments like this demonstrate how invested we are in Townsville.
This is just regarding the CC laptop report. What did you make about the CCC report on laptops?
Well, the fact that the CCC even had to release that report yesterday is quite extraordinary. And if you think about some of the quite outrageous things that the Leader of the Opposition, David Crisafulli, had to say about this before the report was handed down, you can see what a fool he looks like now. It was David Crisafulli who stood up every day and said a laptop had been seized. He stood up every day and said goons, that was his word, goons had stormed the Integrity Commissioner's office. And as a result of all of that, our corruption body felt the need to issue a public report to say that they were all lies. Every single thing he said about that laptop were lies. He talked about an inferno. His inferno did not even have a spark. There was no truth to it at any point in time. His credibility is in tatters. He should apologise to the Queenslanders he misled. He should apologise to the public servants who he defamed with his statements. His spokespeople who repeated those statements over and over again at press conferences, in speeches, on Twitter, online, they should apologise too. Jared Blay, the ridiculous things he said, all made up. Fiona Simpson calls herself the integrity spokeswoman and stood up and lied every single day about that laptop. Her integrity is in tatters too. So David Crisafulli has three jobs today. First of all, he has to apologise. Second of all, he has to rule out participating in cash for access fundraisers, as we have now done. Third, he has to commit to implementing the recommendations of the Coldrake report, and he has to commit on behalf of his party. It's not good enough to do what he did last week and say he was committed to them, and then the very next day have his backbenchers, his caucus members, act contrary to those recommendations when it came to the term for the appointment of the chair of the CCC. And one of those recommendations is that lobbyists should not be central members of political party campaigns, and he is yet to rule out the fact that LNP lobbyists will be members of his next campaign. So he needs to do that too. All of the pressure should be on David Crisafulli today. I have never seen the CCC have to issue a report like this to refute outrageous claims that were so bizarre you would think they could not have made them up, but it now turns out that they did.
What work is being done to make the Office of the Integrity Commissioner more independent from the CCC?
So we have a report into the Integrity Commissioner and their office that I think is still currently with the Parliamentary Committee that oversees the Integrity Commissioner. There are recommendations in the Coldrake report and observations that go to that office, and of course we will implement those. We have an acting Integrity Commissioner in place right now and a recruitment process underway, and no doubt the new Integrity Commissioner will have views about how they want to set the office up as well, and we'll take those on board.
Do you think some of the controversy could have been avoided if the government had listened to the loopholes and the report findings to fix the governance structure of the Integrity Commission and made her office more independent?
I think this could have been avoided if the LNP didn't make things up. We have a report now from the CCC that says that their claims that a laptop was seized, a laptop was stolen, that data was breached, that there were goons, all of that was untrue. And I think it's been really unfair on Queenslanders that they've been led to believe that there was some kind of conspiracy, and our CCC, that should be focused, should be spending their time on major crime and corruption, have had to waste their time correcting the record for ridiculous things the LNP have had to say.
We know as much as $140 million in federal funding for Townsville that was promised by the former coalition government in 2018 remains unspent with the new Labor government. What is the state government doing to liaise with their federal counterparts and ensure this money still gets spent?
Oh, look, I'm really looking forward to our first City Deal meeting. That's where the Mayor, the Federal Minister and I will sit down. We'll talk about our progress on all of the projects that are within the City Deal, but with a particular focus on what to do with that money that was withheld by the previous government so that they could play politics with the Townsville City Deal. Let's be really clear about what this was about. This was about Phil Thompson's re-election campaign and his inability to convince Scott Morrison to not play politics with important projects like the water pipeline. Now, they took some of those funds to fund election commitments that they made. We supported some of those. We have questions about others, but there are other funds still there committed to the City Deal that belong to Townsville. And I know the Mayor is looking forward to, as I am, the chance to sit down without all of the politics, without all of the grandstanding, and have a conversation about what are the things that Townsville needs most. I know when I've looked over these kinds of projects, I've had a view about prioritising those that will deliver an economic benefit, those that will create jobs, because that brings with it more investment. But there are a range of projects on everyone's wish list for Townsville, and that $140 million, well, that's a chance for us to progress some of those. I might see if Jenny wants to add anything on that question. Yeah, sure. Okay. There's been a range of commentary about masks over the last few days, and I mean, one of the things we always have to consider when considering public health measures is social and behavioural change and what people are actually willing to do. At this stage, the health advice remains the same, and that is that you should carry a mask with you whenever you can, so that you've got it if you need it, if you're in a situation where you can't social distance. There is a lot of COVID around at the moment. There's some flu as well, but a lot of COVID, about 10 times as much COVID as the flu, and it's knocking people around. These new strains are knocking people around. So take all of the health advice, all of the personal hygiene measures that we talked about early on in the pandemic. Use a mask if you want to. It certainly won't do you any harm. And we'll continue to update the health advice based on what the Chief Health Officer tells us, what he hears from other Chief Health Officers in other states, as well as that ongoing monitoring of the virus worldwide. Well, at this stage, the third wave, I think, has overtaken the second wave, and there are some projections that it may overtake the first. That's putting a great strain on our hospitals. We expected the number of COVID patients in hospital to overtake 600 today. I haven't seen the latest figures, but that's a pretty substantial hospital out of our network. So if you think about one of our medium-sized hospitals chock full of COVID patients unavailable to do other treatments, that's what we're experiencing right now. As well, our hospitals, like all workplaces, are affected by those who are off work with COVID and those who have to care for people with COVID or are contacts of those with COVID. At the moment, that's running into the thousands. That has an impact on our workforce too. Our health services are really good at managing this, experienced at managing this. They know how to deal with surges in virus cases, but I guess we should just bear a thought for the hard-working doctors, nurses, ambos, health professionals who really are at the front line of this now. Yeah, well, I was going to let Jenny talk about the City Deal and then we'll come back. Yeah.
So with the city deal, there are a number of projects that we'd like commitments to. We've co-funded the business case for the arts precinct, the Northern Australia Performing Arts Complex. We're waiting to get that back before we can continue on with the city deal. But there are a number of projects that we had hoped would be funded in the city deal that are being funded independently by the new federal government, which includes the simulation park that will be co-located between Laverack Barracks and the hospital and the university. That's a massive project that's attracted $32 million worth of federal funding, but also equivalent funding from the private sector, who truly believe that this project is extremely important in terms of education and simulation training. The other money we received through the federal election from federal Labor was the funding for the reuse water plant at Cleveland. Now that will pump up to 18 megs a day in terms of irrigation around the city, and also be used by industry predominantly for the creation of hydrogen energy. So that's another project that we'd originally had in the city deal plan that was funded independently through the federal Labor government as part of their election commitment. So I'm looking forward to see what we can do with the monies that are left in the city deal and what other projects that we have listed in our pro forma, our agreement with the federal and state government, that we can continue to fund.
Has there been like a timeline set out of when you're actually going to sit down with some of these sort of counterparts to talk about?
Not at this stage. It's about aligning calendars, and sometimes that can be difficult. So we'll be looking to do that once, well, Parliament hasn't even sat yet, so we're waiting to see what happens there.
Did you have one for me?
Yep. You're up.
Regarding Townsville Health Service, so the LNP placed $94 million has been cut to the Townsville Health Service. What does this mean?
So every single year, the LNP take a figure that is in the budget and lie to the people of Queensland about what that means. So every single year we have increased the health budget to every single one of our health and hospital services, including to Townsville, and this year we've increased that by more than ever before. But what we do is to try to be more productive, more efficient with the funds that we deliver. We also seek to become more productive, and that is included as a goal in the budget. That's what the productivity dividend is. It allows us to deliver even more additional services over and above the budget increase. So we increase the budget by a certain percentage, and then we increase the number of services we deliver by a percentage further, and that is funded through the productivity dividend. Productivity dividend delivers even more services to people in Townsville. And if you go back to this time last year, this time the year before, this time the year before that, the LNP have told the same lie every single year. And the way you know it's a lie is the budgets in 2012, 2013 and 2014 all included the exact same productivity dividend.
And where has the money from the hospital savings been allocated?
They get allocated back into the hospital. So as I say, they allow us to deliver even more additional services than the additional funding. So we increase funding by a lot, and then we increase the number of services delivered by a bit more than that, and that is funded through the productivity dividend.
And what is the state government doing to ensure this doesn't affect operations at the local hospital?
Well, it delivers greater operations. It delivers more services. That's precisely what it is designed to do. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, DP.